These are assembly instructions for my floral wedding day card with pop-up. So this card has a lot of little bits to it. I'm going to start by preparing all the little flowers that are going to go on my card. On the left-hand side, I have the larger flowers and they're going to go on the cover of my card. And on the right-hand side, I have the smaller sized flowers and they're going to go on the interior of the card. I'm using a foam pad. Here you could use craft foam or you could even use a mouse pad, something that's nice and cushiony. And then I am taking a stylus with a nice rounded edge. So this is actually a cake decorating stylus, but it works very well on paper. And I'm just taking one of my little flowers. I'm just drawing circles on the center of my flower just to give them dimension. And I'm doing that with all of these little tiny ones. This white cardstock is 65-pound shimmer cardstock that I got at Michael's. And it comes in sheets of 8.5 by 11. And then I have the larger flowers. I'm drawing circles in the center of my flower and then working outwards. And that creates a little bit of cupping on my flower, a little dimension. I'm doing that with all of them. Then I have two of these, they look little teardrops, and I'm taking my craft dowel and I'm rolling from the bottom, I'm rolling towards the top on both sides. And I have a little stem piece. I'm putting a little bit of glue at the top. I'm inserting it inside. I'm putting a little bit of glue just at the base of this curved part of my petal. I'm bringing the other side around. And I'm using my reverse tweezers and just pinching them together until my glue takes. I'm going to do that with the second one. I'm shaping my little yellow flowers with my stylus just by drawing little circles in the middle of my yellow flowers. And I cut a few too many of these. I'm not going to use this many in my final project. And this again is 65-pound cardstock. And then I need to roll both my large flowers and my small flowers. They go together the exact same way. I'm taking my quilling tool. I'm inserting the end piece into my quilling tool. I'm rotating my quilling tool and wrapping my cardstock around the base of my tool. Just going to keep going to the very end or the center of my flower. And then I'm putting glue on that little circular end on my flower, putting lots of art glitter glue. And then I'm positioning the bottom of my flower onto my base. And then I'm pinching it until my glue takes. While I'm holding it in place, I can play with the petals and kind of fold them over a little bit. So that's one flower done. I'm doing the same thing with the small flowers. These are a little bit more delicate, so I'm just wrapping my flowers around, kind of applying pressure onto the petals to help form them. So there's the larger ones and then the smaller ones, and I am going to assemble all the others the exact same way. So I'm starting with the cover of my card, and I have a piece of foil cardstock. So this is in silver. And then I have a piece of 80-pound white Cricut cardstock, which I have embossed. And I've embossed this using an embossing folder and an embossing machine. So this design was not done on my Cricut machine. I'm just putting glue on the underside of it. I'm gluing it to my foil layer, trying to keep an even border around all four sides. And then I have the left side of my card. I'm going to put glue on the underside of it. And then I am gluing this down so it's right along the edge of my white panel on the left and at the top and at the bottom. And then I have the second part of it that goes on the right hand side. I'm putting glue on the underside of that panel as well. And I'm gluing it down right along the right edge of my white panel. Next I have these two curved pieces. So these curved pieces just get glued along the curved edge, like so. And then I have this little trim piece. I'm putting glue on the underside of it. And then I'm positioning it so that there's an even border on all three sides. So I want to create a bouquet of flowers that falls within this area. So the center part of it would be about here. And so this is going to be the platform that I'm going to build my bouquet on. I'm curling up my leaves a little bit. So I'm just dry fitting everything to see how it looks. So I want to stay within this area on my card. I'm going to take two of these smaller pieces from my inside and I'm going to put them on the outside. Like so. It's maybe a little too busy. So I have some flat back pearls with adhesive on the underside of them. And then I have these rhinestones. I'm going to be decorating the center of my flowers with these. And so I'm just gluing all of these things down onto the platform. I'm gluing down my flowers. So I've glued down the stems of my long flowers so that they're behind the platform. And then I'm just positioning my platform and gluing it down to the base of my card. And then I'm gluing down more flowers on the right hand side. So then I have my sentiment. Now my sentiment is print and cut, and I printed it on Cricut printable vinyl, and I've glued it onto a foil base. I'm going to put foam tape on the back just to pop it up a little bit. And I do have some leftover flowers, and I can keep them for another card or see if I want to put them on the inside of this card. So I put some foam tape on the underside of my sentiment, and I'm just positioning it on my card. All right, so next I'm going to move on to the interior of my card. My card base is cut out of Cricut craft board. Now, if you're having difficulty finding craft board, you can also use a thicker material such as 110-pound cardstock or even watercolor paper. So I'm just folding down on the score lines. So this is the top of my card, this is the middle panel, and this is the bottom panel. There's a tab at the top and putting glue from the score line to the edge. And then I'm positioning my card base so that it's right up against the score line of the tab where I've just put glue. I want the left and right side to be nice and even, and then I'm just folding up. I have my 80-pound cardstock, and then I'm gluing my foiled pattern cardstock on top. I have the panel at the top, panel in the middle, and the panel at the bottom. So I'm just going to glue all of these layers down, making sure to try to keep an even border all the way around all the panels. So now that I've decorated the panels on the interior of my card, I'm going to work on the pop-up. And I'm folding down on all the score lines. So I've got the tab at the top, I have the score lines at the top of my pillars, and then I have the score lines at the bottom of my pillars, and then I have my pillar pieces, and I have some extra little trim pieces that I'm going to glue down to them. So now I'm putting glue on the underside of my column pieces, making sure that the edges are nice and even. So this is my column piece that's in position when my card is popped up. I'm just gluing down a piece of cardstock on the bottom. So this is the floor. And then I have my little couple. So my little couple is a piece of white cardstock, and I've used some black vinyl. I'm putting red line tape on the underside at the bottom of my bride and groom image. And then I'm removing the liner of my red line tape. So I'm just gluing my couple down to the bottom of my acetate strip. And then on the front of my acetate, I'm putting red line tape on both ends of my acetate piece. I'm removing the liner of my red line tape. And then I'm positioning my bride and groom behind my columns. The red line tape is right behind those columns. And then I'm going to fold it all down so the red line tape is hidden by my columns at the front, like so. So next I want to glue this piece to the top. The underside of it is brown, so I'm just covering the underside with my white cardstock. And then I'm putting glue all around that frame piece that's at the top of my column, and I'm gluing my silver layer right up against the score line. I'm flipping it over and I'm just spreading that glue along the perimeter. I'm putting glue all over that bottom panel, so not the part that's decorated, the other side of it. I'm going to lift up this panel just to make sure that I'm putting this panel right up against the score line. I'm trying to position it so that there's the same amount on the left and the right hand side. I have my pop-up laying flat in that center panel. I'm going to flip it over so that I'm looking at that top rectangle and that tab. I'm putting glue all over that tab, and then I'm going to bring my top panel downwards, and I'm applying pressure where that tab is because I want that to really take. So then when you open it, your card pops up like so. So I'm just forming 2 more flower arrangements to put on either side. This one can be a little bit bigger because I have a little bit more room. So now I'm just gluing down my bouquets to my pillars. Since this card is to be signed by many people in an office setting, I'm making a little booklet for everyone to sign. So I have 3 different pages and a cover for my booklet, and I'm placing the pages inside the cover. And then I'm taking a needle and some embroidery floss. I'm inserting my needle in the central hole, so I'm going through all 4 layers. I'm pulling my yarn through and then bringing my needle up in the hole that's on my right hand side, and then going back down in that center hole. Then I'm inserting my needle through the hole that's on the left hand side, and then I'm putting it under that first segment that I've formed, and then I'm going to pull that into a knot and then make a little bow, and then I'm going to snip off the excess. So this is my booklet, and this is my little envelope for my booklet, and I folded down on the 4 score lines to create the envelope. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the point of one of the side panels, glue that down. Then I'm putting glue all along the edge of that bottom panel, and then folding it upwards like so. So I'm going to use some 3/8 of an inch clear Velcro fasteners. I have a set here. I'm removing the liner on the adhesive side of my Velcro, and I'm just positioning it on the inside of my envelope like so. So I've got the other half positioned on top of my Velcro dot. I'm removing the liner on it, closing my envelope, and then I'm taking my Cricut tool and I'm inserting it between my 2 layers of Velcro. And then I'm going to add a little bit of pressure, making sure that both of those Velcro dots stay put. And I have my little Mr. and Mrs. So this is cut out of black vinyl, and I'm applying it to my envelope. I'm going to take more of those Velcro dots. I'm sticking one of them on the right side and one of them on the left. Then I'm removing the liner off the adhesive portion. I'm positioning my envelope so it's as centered as possible. And then I'm going in with my Cricut tool and I'm separating my Velcro. And then I'm pressing down on the Velcro dots to make sure that they stay put. So it's removable for everybody to sign, but then when they're done, you just put it back in place. Celebrate. I'm just going to glue that to the top of my card. And then I have the couple's name, also out of black vinyl on white cardstock, which I'm just going to glue down here. So the interior is now done. So next I have the panels for the outside of the card. These 2 panels are more of that 80-pound white cardstock that I've embossed, and they're glued onto a foil cardstock layer. I'm just going to put glue on the underside of them. The smaller one goes on that flap that's on the other side of that little booklet. And then I'm going to flip my card over, and this is where the join is at the bottom, and I'm going to glue this one down to cover that panel. And so now finally I'm going to glue on the cover of my card. I'm just putting glue on the underside. The opening of my card is at the bottom. I'm just gluing that, trying to keep an even border around all 4 sides. I have a coordinating envelope for my wedding card. I'm just folding down on the score lines for it. So I have the larger panel on my left hand side, and I have a long tab on the right side of it. I'm putting glue all over that tab, and then I'm joining my second piece to it. I want the cut edge of that piece to be right along the score line of the tab where I've just put glue, and I want the top of it to be even with the score line of the tab and the top on the other piece, and the score lines at the bottom to be nice and even as well. I'm going to flip my box over so that I'm looking at the inside of it. I'm folding over the panel on the left hand side and putting glue all over the tab, and then I'm folding from the right. I want the cut edge of that piece to be right along the score line of my tab. So next I'm going to flip my box over so that I'm looking at the underside of it, and I have 2 short tabs on either side. I'm going to put glue all over those tabs, and then I'm folding over one of the flaps. I want the cut edge of that flap to be right along the score line of the tabs on both sides, and then I'm putting glue all over it, and I'm folding over the other flap, close up the bottom of my box, and again the cut edges of that flap are right along the score lines of my tab. I'm looking at the inside of my box from the top, and I'm going in with my bone folder and I'm just spreading that glue. So this is the top of my box, and I have a panel to glue down here so that color will show through when my box is closed. I'm just putting glue on the perimeter of this panel. I'm putting a little bit of glue on the top of the box as well. Just putting a little bit of glue along that filigree. And then I'm placing my panel. There should be a tiny little border all the way around. And I also have these 2 little trim pieces that I want to add. I'm putting glue on the underside of both of these, and I'm just placing them one below and one above the design that's on my envelope. So as a closure, I'm going to add 2 Velcro dots on the front flap of my box, and then folding down the front flap so it's positioned properly, and then adding extra pressure. So now I can insert